So my question was, being a main character means that you got to play with many actors and different characters in the show. And which character's death was the hardest for you?
Other than Dean's?
Yeah, other than Dean's, obviously.
I think the first time that that we really see Dean lose someone close to him was his brother Sam. At the end of season 1, right? Like I said, at the end of season 2. It was All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2, right? When he gets stabbed. And I remember thinking like, did I just lose my co-star? But then there's the scene where I'm like over his bed and he's laying there dead, and I'm like, you know, Dean's gonna find a way to bring him back. He's gonna do something and figure something out. And so it became this interesting thing of, on the show, you know, we have a saying, it's like nothing ever really dies in Supernatural. So it was weird because I, Jensen, never really mourned anybody because I was like, they'll be back. So the death of a lot of the characters, it was, for me, it was playing Dean as though that was the end. But in my mind, I was like, oh, well, this is just a pause on this character. And so obviously I knew Jared was not going to be, you know, Sam was not going to be gone forever because Jared had a contract. He and I were working together on every episode. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll figure something out. I think there was the difficult one, if I had to pick one, was probably Dad. Because I knew that Jeffrey Morgan was not contracted to be on the show for an extended period of time, and he was going off to do a whole bunch of other things. And so I think that had the most weight to it, because not only was Dean losing his father for the first time, but Jensen knew that Jeff was maybe not coming back. And so I think that was tough, both character-wise and personally, because they had built John as such a North Star to Dean. And I felt like now that compass is gone and has been taken away, and how is Dean gonna figure this out? And it was great for the show. It was a good story to tell. I mean, that Dean is now, because you noted in the season 1 and season 2, there's a whole motivation shift. In season 1, Dean's like, Sam, we gotta go find Dad. Something's happened. This is what we do. This is who we are. We're gonna get out there, we're gonna go, and you need to go with me. And Sam's like, I don't want to do that. I don't do this anymore. I just want to be left alone and live a normal life. And I'm like, not gonna happen. You're coming with me. Then you flip to Dean loses Dad, and Dean's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And Sam's like, nope. Put your boots on, get in the car, we're going. So it was a total shift in the character motivation. And so that really impacted Dean as a performance, as his performance, because it shifted his whole motivation. And then it affected me, Jensen, because I was like, well, now what? You know, now who do I look to for guidance for this character? Because the whole reason that Dean's voice got lower throughout the years was because that's how Jeff played Dad, and I felt like, well, eventually Dean's gonna turn into Dad. So I guess it would have to be when John died, was probably the toughest one to assimilate to.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, that was a long one. She's like, I'll paraphrase.
Donc effectivement, il y a eu beaucoup de morts. Quelle était pour lui la pire de toutes? à part celle de Dean, forcément. Il dit effectivement, la première fois qu'on voit Dean vraiment perdre quelqu'un qui est très proche de lui, forcément c'est Sam en fin de saison 2, où là il dit « Oh, ça se trouve, je viens de perdre mon collègue », donc c'est un peu compliqué. Mais voilà, après il y a la scène, vous savez, du coup, devant le lit, où il se dit « Non, je vais trouver un moyen de le ramener », donc il n'abandonne pas. Mais comme ils disent tout le temps, rien ne vient jamais dans SPN. Et du coup, justement, ça faisait que quand il y avait des morts, ils n'avaient pas le même impact sur eux non plus, parce qu'ils disaient « C'est sûrement juste une pause, si vous voulez ». Du coup, c'était pas aussi grave. La difficulté, du coup, la première fois où il y a eu une vraie fin difficile, c'est à la mort du coup de John, du père, puisque l'acteur n'était pas en contrat comme Jared l'était. Donc il n'y avait pas le côté, je sais bien que Jared va venir, que ça va venir. Là, pour le père, c'était différent. Donc à la fois, on avait Dean qui perd son père, et on avait également Jensen qui perd un peu son ami, qui n'aura plus avec lui tout le temps. Donc voilà, en plus, Jensen, c'était vraiment un peu l'étoile du Nord, si vous voulez, le guide, tout simplement, de son fils. Donc maintenant, qu'est-ce qu'il va faire, vers qui il va regarder? Et il a aimé justement qu'il y ait une sorte de shift et de changement dans la dynamique de la série. Dans la saison 1, c'est vraiment Dean qui porte le duo, qui veut aller à la charge de son père. Et dans la saison 2, justement, après le décès de John, Dean, il n'en peut plus, il veut arrêter. Et c'est Sam, au contraire, qui pousse un petit peu le duo. Donc il trouve que ça faisait un impact sur comment lui jouait le personnage. Et ça, il a beaucoup apprécié, puisque la motivation n'était plus la même. Et par exemple, rien que ça, le fait que la voix de son personnage change au fur et à mesure, devient de plus en plus grave, venait du fait que l'acteur Jeffrey Morgan jouait justement John avec une voix très très grave. Donc Dean voulait devenir comme son père, si vous voulez. Donc une fois qu'il n'y a plus son père, qu'est-ce que Dean va faire? Et donc il trouvait vraiment que cette mort-là avait un impact bien plus grand que n'importe laquelle, en tout cas jusque-là. So Dean loves a lot of music in the show. Is it your same kind of taste?
I almost understood that question perfectly, but I... So, yeah, Dean, so it was one of the reasons that I kind of immediately fell in love with Supernatural's very first script. I think I've talked about this before, but in the first page, on the first page of the script, might have been the second page, very close to the front, it said in cue music, but not that, it was like, I'm like kind of paraphrasing Kripke, but it was like not that watered down emo shit. These guys listen to real rock, classic rock. And I'd grown up listening to that music. That was certainly something that I identified with. And so knowing that was going to be a big part of the show really kind of helped me understand the tone of what the show was and where it was going. And it also helped me really kind of identify with this character of Dean. And honestly, I think it was probably the first thing that I identified with the character. And I was like, oh, I can build on that. I can build off of a guy who really likes this music and who is diehard about this music, who likes old cars. I like old cars. I have a baby in my garage, but I also have next to it, I have a 69 Ford Bronco. And so I like that kind of stuff too. I like the old music, I like the old cars. And those were things that I used to identify quickly with a character that I was learning about. And then ultimately became, an amalgamation of kind of me and other things that I brought into it is really kind of who became Dean. So yeah, I definitely share a music interest with the character, as well as many other things.
Thank you. Donc, effectivement, c'est même ça qui l'a fait tomber un peu sous le charme de la série. Il se rappelle du tout premier script, donc il dit page 1 ou 2, quand ils disent, là c'est le moment de la musique, Kripke avait précisé, pas la musique un peu édulcorée, pas terrible, que les gens écoutent, non, du vrai rock classique. Et vu que lui, il a grandi avec ça, justement, c'est là où il s'est dit, il a trouvé le premier élément, si tu veux, pour commencer à comprendre son personnage. C'est là où il s'est dit, ce personnage-là, je vais pas le comprendre, je vais pouvoir m'identifier à lui. Ça, après, il y a eu des voitures, lui aussi, dans son scar, comme il dit, il a Baby, forcément. Et à côté, il a pareil, une voiture classique. Donc, c'est ça, si tu veux, la musique, genre de choses, où il s'est dit, ce personnage, je peux m'identifier à lui, je le comprends, je vais pouvoir le développer. Et après, il a apporté ces éléments à lui, bien sûr, au personnage de Dean.